The summons. I never expected the message to come sealed in imperial gold. One moment, I was standing on a windswept maintenance platform on the outer ring of Solaris Prime, arguing with a diagnostics drone about thermal fluctuations. The next, every screen in the control bay went black. Then her crest appeared, the sigil of the solar throne, burning white against a field of midnight blue. Daniel Brooks. The voice said, calm and impossibly steady. By decree of Empress Liana Valeris, you are summoned to the Imperial Palace. The energy dome over Solaris Prime had been failing for weeks. Microfractures in the atmospheric lattice. Instability in the core relays. If it collapsed, millions would suffocate before evacuation ships could launch. I had filed 3 proposals to fix it. All denied. Until now. The transport that collected me was military grade, silent as accusation. When we descended through the upper spires of the Capitol, I saw the dome flicker faintly, a ripple of weakness across the sky like a heartbeat skipping. Inside the palace gates, the air changed. Cleaner, colder, heavy with expectation. An officer met me at the landing bay. The Empress has personally authorized your access, he said, as if that fact alone were dangerous. Personally, that explained the tension. As I was escorted through corridors of white stone and solar glass, I caught fragments of whispered conversations from council aides and robed officials. A human. She bypassed procedure. The High Council was not consulted. I understood then. Fixing the dome wasn't the only risk. Empress Liana had chosen me. And in this palace, that choice was already causing fractures far deeper than the one in the sky. The throne hall of Solaris Prime was not built for comfort. It was built for distance. The ceiling arched so high it seemed to dissolve into light, panels of solar crystal catching the faint tremor of the failing dome overhead. Every footstep echoed, every whisper multiplied. 200 members of the High Council stood arranged in curved tiers beneath the raised dais, their robes marked by rank, their faces composed into identical masks of polite resistance. And at the far end of the chamber, beneath a cascade of golden light, stood Empress Liana. I had seen recordings of her, of course. Every engineer on Solaris had. But recordings flatten people. They make power look like posture. In person, it was something else. She was tall, composed, wrapped in white and gold that reflected the hall's glow. Her crown was not ornate, just a narrow circlet of solar metal resting against dark hair drawn back from her face. Her expression revealed nothing. But her eyes did. They moved constantly, measuring, calculating, absorbing every reaction in the chamber, including mine. Engineer Daniel Brooks, the Chamberlain announced, voice amplified by the acoustics of the hall, granted temporary advisory presence by decree of her radiance. Temporary. The word lingered. I bowed. Not perfectly. I had practiced twice in the transport and decided anything more would look theatrical. Your radiance. A faint murmur rippled through the court. I could almost hear the thought beneath it. Human. The Empress inclined her head slightly. Rise, Mr. Brooks. Her voice carried easily, not loud, not forced. Controlled. We understand you have proposed an alternative stabilization method for the energy dome. Yes, Your Radiance. You may present it tomorrow before the Council's technical division. Tomorrow. So this was ceremony, then. A public acknowledgement. A reminder to the Council that she had brought me here. That she could. I was about to respond when something shifted in the air. It wasn't a sound at first. It was a tension, sudden and sharp. The great doors behind the dais opened. Princess Arya entered without announcement. She was smaller than I expected. 9, maybe 10 by human measure. Dark hair like her mother's, though worn loose around her shoulders. She was dressed in ceremonial silver, but it hung on her frame like an obligation rather than clothing. The hall went still. Not respectful stillness. Tense stillness. I had read the reports on the transport. After the Emperor's assassination 6 months ago, the princess had withdrawn completely. Refused touch. Refused conversation. Refused public appearances. This was her first. She did not look at the council. She did not look at her mother. She walked down the long aisle of the throne hall as if the 200 most powerful figures in the Dominion did not exist. Straight toward me. I felt it before I understood it. The collective intake of breath. Arya, the Empress said. Not sharply, but there was warning there. The princess did not respond. She stopped 3 steps in front of me. Up close. I could see the shadows under her eyes, the thinness in her face, the careful stillness in her posture, the kind children adopt when they are trying not to feel something too large for them. Her gaze lifted to mine, not curious, assessing. I had no protocol for this. I did the only thing I could think of. I lowered myself to one knee so I wasn't towering over her. That earned another wave of whispers. She studied me for a long moment. Then, without asking, without permission, she reached out and took my hand. Her fingers were cold, small, and they wrapped around my palm with absolute certainty. The throne hall erupted into sound. Not shouting, not yet, but a violent surge of whispers, gasps, movement. Because everyone in that chamber knew what I did not fully understand until that moment. Princess Arya had not touched another living person in 6 months. Not since her father's blood had stained the palace marble. I felt her grip tighten. Instinct told me to pull away, to bow again, to create distance. A human engineer does not hold hands with the imperial heir. But something in the way she held on, not tentative, not accidental, stopped me. Arya, the Empress said again. This time there was something else in her voice. Not command. Fear. The princess did not look back at her mother. She kept her eyes on me. You came, she said softly. Her voice carried farther than it should have in the acoustically perfect chamber. Yes, I answered before thinking. I did. Another ripple through the court. She hasn't, someone began. She must release him, another hissed. But Arya only tightened her grip. And that was when I saw it. Not defiance. Not rebellion. Relief. For the first time since entering the hall, her face changed. The rigid composure cracked, just slightly, and in its place was something raw and searching. I felt something shift inside my chest. The Empress descended the steps of the dais. Every movement deliberate, measured. She stopped a few paces from us. Up close, I could see what distance had concealed. Exhaustion etched into the lines at the corners of her eyes. Grief pressed so deeply into her posture it had become structural. She was not angry. She was stunned. Arya, she said quietly, release the engineer. The princess did not move. The hall waited. I became acutely aware of the weight of 200 gazes. And then Arya spoke again. He doesn't look away. It was such a small sentence, but it fractured the silence. I didn't understand at first. Then I did. She wasn't talking about my presence. She was talking about my eyes. I had not flinched from her, had not offered pity, had not tried to fix her. I had just knelt there, present. And for a child who had watched her father die in this very palace, a child surrounded by people who either feared her grief or weaponized it, that apparently mattered. The High Council began whispering again, louder now. The Empress has lost control. This is inappropriate. She should have restrained the girl. But the Empress did not react to them. Her gaze moved between her daughter's hand and mine, between Arya's face and my expression. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something in her stance shifted. Not weakness, recognition. For the first time in months, her daughter was not recoiling. Not hollow, not unreachable. She was holding on to someone. And she was not afraid. The Empress straightened. Her voice, when she spoke again, cut cleanly through the chamber. The reception will continue. Gasps. Engineer Brooks will remain. Outrage. Protocol shattered in 2 sentences. But Arya still did not let go. And neither did I. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Write in the comments who the alien woman in this story looks like, and who you would like to see in the next one. Let's move on. They thought she had lost her. I could hear it in the way the council shifted after the reception resumed. Conversations sharpened into strategy. Advisors leaned close to one another with expressions that were not grief, but calculation. The Empress had lost control of her daughter. That was the narrative forming in real time. And in an empire balanced on tradition, perception was more fragile than the energy dome above us. Princess Arya never released my hand. Not during the ceremonial procession. Not during the recitation of stabilization projections. Not even when the council's technical minister began questioning me about atmospheric harmonics, as if I were already on trial. She stood beside me like an anchor. Silent. Watching. But something had changed. I noticed it because I was looking for it. Children who shut down don't usually re-emerge all at once. It happens in fragments, a slight shift in breathing, a delayed blink, the way the shoulders stop being held so tightly. Arya was breathing normally. She wasn't braced for impact. She wasn't scanning the room for threat. She was listening. The Empress saw it too. I knew she did because she stopped looking at the council entirely. Her focus narrowed. To Arya. To me. To the space between us. At one point, during a particularly aggressive line of questioning from Chancellor Vorin, a tall man with silver-threaded robes and a voice like polished glass, I felt Arya's fingers twitch. Instinctively, I squeezed back. Not tight, just enough to signal presence. She relaxed. The movement was subtle, but from across the hall, the Empress's eyes sharpened. Not anger, not suspicion, understanding. The council was whispering again. She won't even touch her own mother. This is weakness. The child is unstable. She needs containment, not indulgence. Containment. The word made my jaw tighten. The Empress finally raised her hand. Silence fell immediately. Princess Arya, she said evenly, may return to her chamber. It was phrased as an option, but everyone knew it was a command. Arya did not look at her mother. She looked at me. For permission. And that was the moment the entire court collectively realized what was happening. Not obedience to the throne. Trust in a stranger. My pulse hammered. I leaned closer to her. You don't have to stay, I said quietly. I'll still be here tomorrow. It was a gamble, because if she refused, the political fallout would be catastrophic. For the first time, Arya's gaze shifted to her mother. The Empress did not move. She did not demand. She did not plead. She simply held her daughter's eyes. And for a long, suspended second, I saw something fragile pass between them, something older than grief. Hope. Arya slowly released my hand. The hall exhaled, but she didn't step back immediately. She lingered, as if recalibrating. Then she crossed the distance to the base of the dais. She did not climb the steps. She stood there, looking up at the Empress. And Lyanna did something no one expected. She stepped down. No ceremony. No distance. She lowered herself to Arya's level. Carefully. Slowly. Like approaching a wild animal that had once trusted you and no longer did. I turned away to give them privacy, but I still heard it. Are you afraid? The Empress asked softly. Arya shook her head. Why him? A pause. He doesn't try to fix me. It was such a small answer, but it hit harder than any accusation. The Empress inhaled sharply. I did not need to see her face to know what that meant. Every physician, every counselor, every political advisor had tried to fix the princess, to recondition her grief into composure, to shape her into a functioning heir. And I, by accident, had done nothing, just existed. The council did not understand what they were witnessing. They saw instability. The Empress saw the first crack in the wall her daughter had built. She rose with Arya beside her. Engineer Brooks will be granted provisional residence within the palace, she announced. The chamber erupted. Your Radiance. This is unprecedented. The High Council must. The High Council, she interrupted, voice like sunlight turned to steel, will present objections in writing. Silence fell again. The Empress did not look at them. She looked at me, not as ruler to subject, not as monarch to employee, but as a mother measuring risk. You have until tomorrow to present your stabilization model, she said. Do not disappoint me. I won't, I answered. I meant the dome. She meant something else. As the reception dissolved into fractured clusters of strategy and outrage, Arya stepped closer to her mother. For a brief second, their shoulders brushed. Arya did not flinch. It was barely visible, but the Empress felt it. I saw it in the way her breath caught, in the way her fingers twitched as if resisting the urge to reach out. She didn't push. She didn't force the contact. She let it exist. Across the hall, Chancellor Vorin leaned toward another counselor. She is compromised. No, she wasn't. She was watching, learning, adapting. And I understood something then that I hadn't when I first entered the palace. The energy dome wasn't the only thing destabilizing. The Empress was fighting on two fronts. A collapsing sky, and a court waiting for her to fail as a mother. If Arya continued to reach for me, the council would use it. If she withdrew again, they would use that too. There was no safe path, only necessary ones. As the hall began to empty, Arya turned back toward me one last time. She didn't speak. She didn't wave. She simply met my eyes. And for the first time since I'd stepped into the throne hall, I saw it clearly. There was no fear there. Not of the court. Not of the whispers. Not even of her mother. Just recognition. The Empress saw it too. Because when Arya left the hall, Lyanna did not follow immediately. She remained standing in the center of the throne chamber, watching the doors close behind her daughter. And then she looked at me. There was no accusation in her gaze. No threat. Only a question she could not afford to ask out loud. What have you done? I didn't have an answer. But I had the unsettling sense that whatever it was, it had just changed the trajectory of the Empire. I did not sleep that night. The chamber assigned to me was larger than my entire apartment back on Earth. All white stone and curved glass that looked out over the Capitol. From the balcony, I could see the energy dome shimmer faintly against the dark sky, a thin veil of light separating life from vacuum. It flickered once, a reminder. I should have been focused entirely on it, on relay harmonics, on lattice reinforcement, on stabilizing equations. Instead, I kept seeing a small hand in mine, and the way the Empress had looked at me. Not suspicion, recognition. At dawn, a palace attendant informed me that Her Radiance requested my presence in a private solar chamber before the technical presentation. Private. That word carried more weight than the summons had. The chamber was smaller than the throne hall, circular, with sunlight filtering through layered crystal panels above. No counselors, no guards inside. Just the Empress standing near a projection table displaying live diagnostics of the dome. She did not turn immediately when I entered. "Mr. Brooks," she said calmly, eyes still on the holographic instability map, "the High Council believes I have exercised poor judgment." I gathered that. She almost smiled. Almost. "You are aware that my daughter has not permitted physical contact since her father's assassination?" "Yes." She refused physicians, tutors, me. The last word carried no theatrical pain, just fact. I chose my next sentence carefully. She wasn't looking for someone to touch her. The Empress turned then. And what was she looking for? A witness. Silence filled the chamber. Outside, the dome flickered again, a ripple across the sky. "She watched her father die," Liana said quietly. "The blade was meant for me." The word struck like a shockwave. I had read the official report. Assassination during a public address. Political extremists. Security breach. No mention of a misdirected strike. She saw me hesitate. The Empress continued. 1 second. That is all it takes. 1 second of human reaction before sovereign composure returns. Human. She said it without irony. "She has not forgiven me," Liana said. "Nor should she. That's not how children process trauma," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes sharpened slightly. "You presume expertise?" "I lost my daughter 3 years ago," I answered. The words sat between us. Grace. I had not spoken her name in this palace. Not yet. The Empress did not interrupt. So I continued. "She was 8. A transit malfunction. A civilian shuttle failure. We were supposed to be together that day. I stayed late at work. She boarded alone." My throat tightened, but I did not look away. She died believing I wasn't coming. The projection table hummed softly. The Empress's composure shifted, barely perceptible, but real. "You blame yourself," she said. "Every day. And yet you stand." I stand because collapsing didn't bring her back. The silence deepened. For the first time since entering the palace, the Empress looked not like a sovereign, but like a woman who had been holding her breath for 6 months. "She thinks I chose the throne over her father," Liana said quietly. "Did you?" Her eyes flashed, then steadied. "I chose survival," she said. "For the Empire. For her." "But she doesn't see that," I replied. "No." Outside, the dome trembled again. The Empress stepped closer to the projection table and deactivated the display. The chamber dimmed slightly as the hologram faded. "You did not attempt to comfort her," she said. "No. You did not promise safety. No. You did not offer platitudes. I don't believe in them." She studied me as if recalibrating an equation. "Why did you kneel?" she asked. Because she was looking up at a room full of people who towered over her. A faint breath left her, not quite a laugh. "For 6 months," she said slowly, "every individual in this palace has tried to restore my daughter to who she was before. That child is gone," I said softly. The words were dangerous, but true. The Empress closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, something had changed. Not softened, clarified. "She smiled last night," Liana said. It was almost an accusation. I noticed. "She has not smiled since the day before the assassination." I didn't respond. There was nothing to add. "You understand the danger," she said. "Yes. If the council concludes that you have undue influence, they'll remove me. They will do more than that. The implication was clear. Erasure. Political elimination. The Empress walked to the edge of the chamber, looking out over the capital. I cannot afford weakness, she said. Not in governance. Not in motherhood. Those aren't opposing forces, I said. She turned sharply. On Solaris Prime they are. I stepped closer, careful not to breach whatever invisible boundary remained between us. You said the blade was meant for you. Yes. And she saw that. Yes. She doesn't hate you for surviving, I said quietly. She hates that you didn't break. The Empress went still. She needed to see you fall, I continued. Just once. So she'd know you were hurting too. The words hung in the air. For a moment, I thought I had gone too far. Then the Empress's shoulders lowered, just slightly. You assume much, Mr. Brooks. I recognize grief when I see it. She looked away first. A small crack, but real. She reached for you, Liana said. Not me. She'll reach for you again. How can you be certain? I'm not. The honesty startled her. But if you let her see you, not the Empress, she might. The silence that followed was not political. It was personal. You speak as though you have nothing left to lose, she said finally. I held her gaze. I already lost everything. Something shifted in her eyes. Not pity, understanding, and beneath it, fear. Not of me, of hope. You will present your stabilization model to the council in 1 hour, she said, regaining formal composure. If you fail, your presence here becomes indefensible. I won't fail. I am not speaking of the dome. Our eyes locked. For the first time since arriving on Solaris Prime, I understood fully. Fixing the energy dome was the easy part. The real fracture ran through this palace, through a throne room stained with blood, through a child who had stopped touching the world, and through an Empress who had never allowed herself to break. As I turned to leave, her voice stopped me. Mr. Brooks. I faced her again. Grace, she said quietly. That was her name. Yes. The Empress nodded once. My husband's name was Adrian. The first time she had spoken it aloud, I suspected. Not emperor. Not sovereign. Adrian. The chamber felt smaller suddenly. More fragile. She will not say his name, Liana added. She will, I said. When she knows it won't destroy you. The Empress did not respond. But as I exited the chamber, I saw her reflection in the crystal glass. And for the first time, the woman in the reflection did not look invincible. She looked human. The technical presentation should have been the most dangerous moment of the day. 200 council members. 3 oversight committees. A live projection of the failing energy dome hovering above the central dais. And me, a human engineer with provisional status and a target painted quietly on my back. I delivered the stabilization model cleanly. Lattice reinforcement through harmonic redistribution. Core relay phase realignment. Controlled atmospheric bleed to reduce stress load. It was elegant. It was risky. It would work. The technical division questioned aggressively. I answered precisely. The Empress watched. Not the data. Me. When the final projection stabilized and the dome's flicker reduced by a measurable fraction, temporary, but real, a murmur passed through the hall. Reluctant approval. They couldn't deny the math. But numbers were never the real issue. The real issue entered the throne hall 5 minutes later. Princess Arya walked in without ceremony. Again. This time the room reacted faster, tension snapping tight before she even reached the center. The Empress did not stop her, did not rise, did not issue command. She simply waited. Arya moved past the projection table, past the curved ranks of counselors, and stopped beside me. She did not take my hand immediately. Instead, she turned slowly to face the entire High Council. For a child who had not spoken publicly in 6 months, she carried herself with unsettling composure. Princess, Chancellor Voron began, tone carefully neutral. This is not. Arya raised her hand. The Chancellor stopped speaking. Every member of the council knew the law. An imperial heir had the right to speak without interruption. Even now, even at 9 years old, I have something to declare, Arya said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried. The Empress's posture changed almost imperceptibly. Not alarm. Readiness. I felt the shift in the air, the way the chamber seemed to lean inward. Arya turned slightly toward me, then back to the council. You all know the formula of choosing. The hall went silent. Too silent. The ancient statute had not been invoked in over 3 centuries. It existed in ceremonial archives, rarely discussed, almost never relevant. It is symbolic, one counselor muttered under his breath. It is binding, High Arbiter Kess replied sharply. The Empress did not move. But I saw it. She knew what was happening, and she knew she could not interrupt. Princess Arya, Chancellor Vorin said carefully. The formula applies to guardianship selection in times of imperial incapacity. My mother is not incapacitated, Arya replied calmly. A ripple of discomfort passed through the chamber. No, Vorin corrected quickly. Of course not. The clause is. I know the clause, Arya interrupted. Her gaze sharpened, startlingly like her mother's. The child who had withdrawn from the world was not gone. She had been watching, listening, learning. I have the right, Arya continued, to choose a protector outside the bloodline when trust within the court is compromised. That landed hard. Several council members stiffened. The Empress's eyes flickered, not in anger, but recognition. Arya was not speaking randomly. She was making a statement. About the court. About safety. About betrayal. You believe the court is compromised? Vorin asked, thin smile barely masking tension. Arya did not look at him. She looked at her mother. Father died in this room. The words shattered the air. The Empress did not flinch, but her hand tightened on the armrest of her throne. And no one stopped it. Arya continued. Silence pressed in from every direction. You were a child, Vorin said carefully. I am not blind. I felt something inside me shift. This wasn't grief speaking. This was clarity. Arya turned back toward me. Her eyes held mine. And then she spoke the ancient words. In witness of sovereign law and ancestral covenant, I claim the right of choosing. I name the one who shall stand for my life, my protection, and my heart. The High Council erupted into overlapping voices. This is irregular. She cannot. The formula requires. The Empress stood. One movement. Silence fell instantly. Let her finish, Lyanna said. The authority in her voice was absolute. Arya stepped closer to me, close enough that I could feel the tremor in her breathing. This was not political performance. This was risk. She was about to change everything. Princess, Vorin began again. The proper designation is guardian. The law requires. Arya shook her head and looked up at me. You are my father. The chamber went completely still. Not murmuring, not outrage. Still, as if the air had been pulled from the room. The ancient formula required the word guardian. Protector, regent, never father. That word carried blood implication, succession implication, dynastic implication. It transformed symbolic selection into relational claim. And relational claims were harder to dissolve. Chancellor Vorin recovered first. This is a misinterpretation of the statute, he said sharply. The child has substituted terminology. No, the High Arbiter said quietly. She is not. All eyes turned to the Arbiter. The formula binds intent, he continued, not vocabulary. If the princess defines the role as paternal in nature, the bond reflects that intent. The words felt like gravity shifting beneath my feet. I had not moved, had not spoken. I was acutely aware of the Empress, of whether she would intervene. Stop this. Undo it. She descended the steps of the dais. Slowly, every movement measured. She stopped beside her daughter. Beside me. Her presence was overwhelming. Not physically, but politically. One word from her could dismantle everything Arya had just invoked. Arya, she said quietly. The child did not look away from me. I choose him, she said. The Empress's gaze moved to mine. There was a question there. And something else. Trust. Or perhaps desperation. You understand, Lyanna said softly, that the formula creates permanence. Yes. You understand it cannot be undone by convenience. Yes. Her voice did not waver. The council was restless. If your radiance permits this, Vorin pressed urgently. We enter unprecedented territory. A human engineer bound as. Father, Arya repeated. The word echoed in the vast chamber. The Empress's composure fractured, not visibly to most. But I saw it. A flicker in her eyes. A war behind them. If she stopped this, she preserved political clarity. If she allowed it, she preserved something far more fragile. Her daughter's first act of trust in 6 months. The Empress inhaled slowly. Then she stepped back. I do not contest my daughter's invocation, she said. The High Council erupted again, this time openly. Your Radiance. This is dangerous. The Empire cannot. The Empire, Liana cut through them, voice blazing. Will not instruct me on how to be a mother. Silence slammed down. Arya finally reached for my hand again. And this time, when her fingers wrapped around mine, it was not desperation. It was declaration. I looked at the Empress. She held my gaze. And in that look was the clearest message yet. This will cost us, but I will not take it from her. The High Arbiter stepped forward. The invocation stands, he said, pending formal review by the Council. Pending review. A temporary shield. But the word Father had already been spoken. And in the throne hall of Solaris Prime, spoken words carried weight. I knelt slowly before Arya, not out of obligation, out of recognition. If you are certain, I said quietly. She nodded. I am. The Empress watched the exchange without interruption, without tears, without visible weakness. But I saw her hands tremble, just once, before she clasped them behind her back. Because in allowing her daughter to name me father, she had done something even more dangerous than invoking ancient law. She had allowed hope. And hope, in a fractured empire, was the most destabilizing force of all. The word father had barely stopped echoing in the throne hall when the High Council began moving to contain it. By nightfall, emergency sessions had been convened. By morning, the chamber was no longer ceremonial, it was adversarial. I stood alone at the center of the circular council floor. No projection tables, no dome diagnostics, no technical briefings, just law. The Empress sat upon the throne, elevated but not distant. Princess Arya remained beside her, not touching her this time, but close enough that their shoulders nearly aligned. The council had formed a semicircle below. Chancellor Vorin stepped forward. By precedent and protective statute, he began smoothly. The invocation of the formula of choosing by the imperial heir requires confirmation through the trial of worthiness when the selected individual exists outside imperial blood, culture, or species. Trial of worthiness. The words were ceremonial, but the intent was surgical. I didn't need to be briefed on what it meant. 3 trials. Physical, intellectual, psychological. Designed centuries ago to prevent opportunists from binding themselves to the throne. No human had ever undergone it. No human had ever been invited close enough. The trial is not optional, Vorin continued. It protects the stability of the empire. It protects the council's influence, Arya said quietly. Several heads snapped toward her. The Empress did not silence her. Vorin inclined his head slightly. Princess, the trial exists to ensure that your declared father is not a liability. The word hung in the air. Liability. I felt Arya stiffen. Then let him take it, she said. A murmur rippled outward. The Chancellor's lips curved faintly. That was exactly what they wanted. They expected me to fail. And if I failed, the formula could be legally dissolved under incapacity clause. The bond erased, not by undoing her words, but by declaring me unworthy. The Empress rose. The trial is archaic, she said evenly. Its application has not been required in 4 generations. Because no one outside the bloodline has attempted to bind themselves as paternal figure to the imperial heir in 4 generations, Vorin replied. His tone was respectful. His meaning was not. The room waited for her decision. She could overrule them. As sovereign, she held that authority. But I understood now what she understood too. If she protected me from the trial, the council would never accept the bond. It would always remain contested. Arya's declaration would become political ammunition. But if I endured, if I survived, the council would have no legal ground left to stand on. The Empress looked at me, not as ruler, as mother, and in her eyes was the same unspoken question as before. Will you withstand what they will do to you? I stepped forward before she could answer for me. I accept the trial. The words echoed in the chamber. Arya's hand tightened against the armrest of her chair. The Empress's expression did not change, but her breathing did. Engineer Brooks, the High Arbiter said carefully, you understand that the trial is binding. Failure results in immediate removal from imperial proximity and permanent revocation of status. Permanent. The council preferred sterile language. It meant exile, memory restructuring, if deemed necessary. You expect me to withdraw? I asked. Vorin smiled thinly. We expect you to understand your limitations. I looked up at the throne, at Arya, at the woman who had allowed this path because it was the only one that could make her daughter's choice untouchable. I have no intention of withdrawing. The High Arbiter struck the ceremonial staff against the floor. The trial begins at first light. The first trial was physical, not combat, not strength, endurance. They led me into the lower chambers beneath the palace, ancient corridors carved into the planetary stone when Solaris Prime had first been colonized. The energy dome's harmonic vibrations resonated faintly through the rock. The test required crossing the resonance corridor, a tunnel laced with crystalline filaments that amplified neural interference. Valerian physiology could compensate. Human physiology could not. "You may withdraw at any time," the attendant said coldly. "Of course I may." The corridor hummed as I stepped inside. At first it was only disorientation, then nausea, then distortion. Sound bent unnaturally. Light fractured. Memories surfaced unbidden. Grace's face. The shuttle fire. The hospital corridor. My breath shortened. The crystals responded to emotional instability, amplifying stress signals into neural feedback. I dropped to one knee. Not from pain. From memory. The corridor did not test strength. It tested collapse. Every instinct screamed to retreat. But retreat would validate them. And worse, it would validate the idea that Aria's choice had been childish. I forced myself upright. Step by step. The hum intensified. My vision blurred. I heard Grace's voice. "Dad, you promised." It wasn't real, but it felt real. I staggered, nearly fell, and then I remembered something the Empress had said in the solar chamber. She thinks I didn't break. The corridor wasn't trying to defeat me. It was trying to expose what I refused to face. I didn't push the memory away. I let it hit. Let the grief surge. Let the guilt breathe. The hum spiked violently, and then stabilized. The crystals shifted frequency, not amplifying, resonating. The corridor wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to reveal fracture tolerance. I reached the far end, collapsed there, but conscious. The Arbiter observed through a projection screen. "Physical endurance passed," he said evenly. Vorin looked irritated. They had expected a stretcher. The second trial was intellectual. Council scholars surrounded me in a circular chamber. Rapid-fire interrogation, imperial law, energy governance, crisis ethics, succession doctrine. They weren't testing intelligence alone. They were testing composure under intellectual assault. For 6 hours they pressed, contradicted, attempted to bait emotional reaction. "You are not of this world," one scholar snapped. "You do not understand the cultural burden of dynastic structure." "You are correct," I answered evenly. "But I understand structural collapse. And dynasties collapse when fear outweighs integrity." That earned a few looks. Even Vorin's gaze sharpened. When it ended, the Arbiter again struck the staff. Intellectual trial passed. Vorin's irritation deepened. They had one chance left. The third trial was the one they believed would break me. Psychological convergence. They placed me in a circular chamber. No walls, no ceiling visible. Just light. The chamber generated cognitive projections based on neural mapping from the resonance corridor. It would show me what I feared most, and force me to confront it. The projection formed slowly. Grace, standing in the doorway of our apartment. Alive. Unhurt. "Dad," my breath caught. "This was cruel. You left me," she said softly. The chamber amplified her voice, echoing it from every direction. "I had to work," I whispered. "You always had to work." The guilt returned, sharp and fresh. But this time I did not argue. "I should have been there," I said. "Yes." No defense. No excuse. Just truth. The projection shifted. Grace grew older, then younger, then faded into flame. "You're replacing me," she accused. The chamber pulsed. I shook my head. "No. You let her call you father." I closed my eyes. "I didn't ask her to. But you didn't stop her." "No." The chamber brightened violently. "Then you're choosing her." The words cut, but I opened my eyes. "I'm choosing to live." Silence. The projection faltered. "You don't get to die with me," I whispered. "I already lost you. I don't get to lose myself too." The chamber destabilized. The projection fractured into light. The hum stopped. The doors opened. The High Arbiter stood at the threshold. "You did not reject the projection," he observed. "No. You did not deny it." "No. You integrated it." "Yes." Behind him, Vorin looked pale. Because psychological convergence did more than test the candidate. It revealed truth to observers. And in my projection, embedded in neural feedback, were fragments of the assassination footage stored in palace memory. Cross-linked. Unintentionally. The chamber had overlaid my trauma with the throne hall memory archive, and in that overlay, there was a shadow, not from the crowd, from behind the dais, where Chancellor Vorin had stood 6 months ago. The arbiter turned slowly toward him. The silence was heavier than any trial. "You manipulated the security rotation," the arbiter said. Vorin's composure cracked. The chamber had not only tested me, it had exposed interference patterns and stored data. The council began whispering, not in outrage, in realization. The Empress stood, not in fury, in inevitability. Vorin tried to speak, but the arbiter raised the staff. "The trial is complete," he declared. "Daniel Brooks has passed all 3 judgments." He turned toward the throne. "And evidence of internal conspiracy has been revealed." Guards moved instantly. Vorin was seized. The chamber erupted. But I was no longer watching the council. I was watching the Empress. She descended the dais. Slowly, not rushing, not triumphant, just steady. She stopped in front of me. "You endured," she said quietly. "I told you I would." Her hand lifted slightly, hesitated, and then, in full view of the council, she placed it on my shoulder. Not formal, not political, personal. Behind her, Arya ran down the steps, and this time, when she took my hand, it was no longer defiance. It was certainty. The trial they expected me to fail had done the opposite. It had removed the last barrier between her words and their permanence. The council chamber had never felt smaller. Not because of architecture, it was vast, circular, designed to remind every visitor how insignificant they were before imperial law. But because something irreversible had just happened. Chancellor Vorin had been removed under guard. The whispers had shifted from outrage to recalculation. The Trial of Worthiness, meant to sever me from the throne, had instead stripped corruption from within it. And now there was nothing procedural left to hide behind. I stood at the center of the chamber, still exhausted from the final trial, still feeling the echo of Grace's voice in the back of my mind. Arya stood beside me, her hand in mine. She wasn't trembling anymore. She looked steady. The Empress descended the dais one last time, not as a sovereign delivering a verdict, as a mother closing a chapter. The High Arbiter raised his staff. "The trial has concluded. Daniel Brooks has satisfied all conditions of worthiness under imperial statute." No one objected. They couldn't. Law had spoken, but law was not the final piece. Arya stepped forward before anyone prompted her. She turned, not to the arbiter, not to the council, to her mother. For a heartbeat, the entire empire held its breath. "Mother," she said softly, but clearly enough to carry through the chamber, "I choose him." The Empress's composure did not crack, but her eyes shone. "You understand," Lyanna said gently. "That choice binds not only him, but us." "I know," Arya replied. Then she turned toward me, and this time, her voice did not waver at all. "He is my father." Not a declaration of defiance, not a child's impulse, a statement of identity. The chamber absorbed it. No ancient law could undo that word now. Because the Empress did not interrupt. She stepped beside us, close enough that our shoulders nearly touched. And then, in full view of the council, the court, the empire, she spoke. "The imperial throne recognizes the bond invoked by my daughter." Silence deepened. "As sovereign, I affirm her right of choosing." She turned slightly toward me, and as her mother, I confirm it. That was the moment the tension broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely, because the last barrier had fallen. Arya's fingers tightened around mine again, but this time it wasn't fear driving her. It was relief. I looked at the Empress. She met my gaze, not with command, not with obligation, but with trust. Months ago, she had stood alone in this chamber, blade meant for her, husband dying at her feet. Today she stood beside the man her daughter had chosen, not because politics demanded it, but because her child had finally reached for someone again, and she had allowed it. The arbiter struck the staff one final time. "Let the record reflect," he declared, "that under sovereign affirmation and lawful trial, Daniel Brooks is recognized as chosen father to the imperial heir." A murmur rolled through the chamber, not resistance this time. Acceptance. Outside, through the high crystalline windows, the energy dome shimmered, stable. For the first time since I had arrived on Solaris Prime, the sky did not flicker. Arya looked up at me. "You stayed," she said quietly. "I told you I would." The Empress placed her hand lightly against her daughter's back, and together, not as ruler and subject, not as sovereign and engineer, but as something far more dangerous to a fractured empire. We stood as family, and that is how the story would be remembered. The Empress's daughter called him father. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.